Interested in investigation and security? Whether you are already a professional or you are in the beginning stages, take all of your classes at the National Investigative Training Academy. Choose from over 200 courses, all written and taught by experts in the field. The National Investigative Training Academy, or NITA, has offered high-level investigative and security training for over 12 years. Like live classes, NITA has those too. Sign up today for private investigation and security courses and use brand ambassador code B as in boy, A as in Adam, 2367. Take a look at investigativeacademy.com. You'll find the link in our show notes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Crossing the Tape, your favorite true crime podcast. Today we have for you another mini episode. And if you've been following along with us, which you better, then you'll know that this is the next installment in our Jack the Ripper series. So as always, I'm Brendan, and I'm joined by
Hillary.
And do sign the crime scene log and not enjoy, but listen in.
So we've already covered the first murder that Jack the Ripper committed. And again, I'll reiterate, we're not trying to solve the case. We're just kind of giving you information month by month about his victims, because I also feel like nobody remembers his victims. Mm-hmm. So it's one way to kind of, bring their names to light. And also, when we get further into the months as we go, we'll cover a few, very few findings that could have led them to the killer if they had had today's technology.
Right.
And that's another discussion of interest. Mm-hmm. But today we're going to cover actually two victims. His second murder was Annie Chapman. She was the second victim, and the reason she was preyed upon was that she was also a prostitute who had an alcohol problem, very much like his first kill, Mary Nichols. Her murder was linked to Nichols because of the nature of her injuries and the brutality. So they were both very similar, several stab wounds, and very methodically done. It was a thought-out murder. Mm-hmm. Chapman also lived at a boarding house, but unlike Nichols, Chapman's body was found near her home, where many other people lived. And I find that interesting because Nichols was found in an alleyway, and her body was kind of across the road, and her hand was actually on a gate. And it seems that Chapman's body was similar, but it was actually in a hallway of a common area of a boarding house. So that is kind of brazen to me. It's interesting that his first victim was left where she would be found, but in a more discreet area than the second.
Yes.
So they're both, it's not like he was trying to hide their bodies, but it's interesting that one was kind of in a public place, even though if it was discreet. The other one was in a boarding house where many people lived.
Right.
The third murder was Elizabeth Stride. There was actually, when I researched her, there's a ton of information, much more than the other victims. We could probably do an episode just on her.
Oh, wow.
But I'm trying to stick with the series. I don't want to deviate too much. Maybe later on. We'll see. But Elizabeth Stride was his third kill, and there's question whether she was murdered by Jack the Ripper or not.
Oh, really?
This is due to the fact that she was not mutilated like the others.
Huh.
However, she was murdered 1 hour or less before his fourth victim, which we'll talk about next time. And I think it was the proximity of where she was found is why they linked her to Jack the Ripper.
Right.
She was found within walking distance to that fourth victim. And her crime scene was also, but unfortunately her crime scene was disrupted by a two-wheeled cart. Somebody just drove through it. I don't know if they saw her or not. That begs the question, was the murder on the cart?
Right. If that wasn't Jack the Ripper, then lucky day for whoever actually did kill her.
Yeah.
She was close enough, they went, oh, look, two in one night.
And since her demise and another victim occurred so close in time and proximity, it kind of makes me wonder, was that the person on the cart?
Yeah.
Elizabeth, like the others, had her throat slit and her body was positioned in a very similar manner like the other two victims. Her autopsy revealed that she was pulled by the back of her head and cut once fatally. So very quickly.
Yeah.
And like the others, all the overkill, which is more than, and not the stab wound that killed them, they were stabbed after.
Right.
That's overkill. Those were all done, post-mortem.
Mm-hmm.
And like her, it was very skillfully done. Her murder was given a proper inquest. Oh. And there was actually kind of a grand jury about it. And there were depositions. They lasted 5 days.
Wow.
But nothing substantial ever came of it, unfortunately.
So hers wasn't treated as prostitute. That's too bad.
No, even
really
though
dove into this one.
She still was kind of in that realm.
Yeah.
I didn't get too much into her life, like I said, because that could be an entire episode. But she was still kind of in that realm with the other girls. But for some reason, she got a whole inquest.
And that may have been the one that wasn't even the Ripper at all.
Right.
that wasn't consistent with...
Right. And I kind of think that the reason she had more of an inquest was because I think it was the particular police officer who was in charge of that case. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the impression I had. Maybe he cared a little bit more than the others, but I wish that, they'd been able to get some traction on it.
Right.
Because if it was Jack the Ripper, then they would have gotten more leads, possibly, to the other murders. And if it wasn't, then the murder just got away.
Yeah, then some guy...
And Jack the Ripper was blamed, who also was never found out.
Jeez.
So that's it's sad. But as I mentioned, I like to go through all the victims and all the murders because if you asked me who Jack the Ripper was before I did all this research, I could tell you. I could not name his victims.
Right. Now, with her, the single throat slash... Mm-hmm. And of course, fingers pointed to Jack the Ripper, whether it was him or not. It does happen, but it's super rare that a serial killer will just change up their style like that, right?
Yeah, it's rare.
Very uncommon, but it does happen.
It does happen if they kind of want to throw off people, or it could have been a copycat. That's my other thought, too.
And yeah, you're right. Some, toying with authorities. They know they're being looked at, so they do something totally different to see if they'll pick it up.
But it'll be interesting when we get into his other victims, and then later on we'll get into actually some evidence that if it had been found today, they probably could have found the identity of Jack the Ripper.
Right.
But it's worth a discussion. It's interesting.
Absolutely.
That's all I have for you today. Thank you for listening.
Please sign the crime scene log on your way out.
Stay safe.
And so long.
Fall is just around the corner, and with the drop in temperatures, you also need some new gear. 511 Tactical has a variety of great products from boots to pants to shirts and accessories. There are two standout products I had the chance to try out. One is the women's Sully UV hoodie. It's a long-sleeved, athletic-type shirt that's comfortable, light, but protective. It comes in black or white, and it's made out of polyester and is moisture-wicking as well. The other standout item this year that's new is the Chukka boot. These boots come in classic brown and have excellent traction. They're durable, comfortable, and look great for everyday wear, but are rugged enough to wear while hiking, or they could even be worn as an undercover boot. It's another great pair of footwear from 511.